Hey guys, so it's Ben here. I'm doing another video. Today's going to be slightly different. I'm not going to be doing anything too historical. It's actually going to be a little bit more of an opinion-based video. I'm going to be talking about actually one of the talking points that I hear a lot in NBA conversations, both in the media, like on sources like ESPN, Fox, things like that, and also just in um, personal conversations I have with people and stuff like that, and things I see on like NBA Twitter and comments on different posts I see, different things like that. I'm going to just talk about a common talking point that people sometimes bring up in debating players' greatness and why I think it's a very flawed talking point. So to be more specific, that talking point is actually the one that, well, so and so needed help to win. That's often a talking point. I mean, especially with Jordan and LeBron, it's often like, well, he needed help to win. Well, and it's like, or Jordan never needed to go to a super team to win. And now this isn't going to be a Jordan LeBron video. It's going to be an all encapsulating video. That's just the easy example to bring up because people often harken back to that. Well, Jordan never needed to leave because um, X, Y, or Z. You know, LeBron had to run away and hide and play on a super team to win a championship. Jordan never recruited. He never had to do anything like that. Well, first off, I'm going to discount that because the Bulls definitely recruited both to get Tony Kukoc over from Europe in 95 or 94, and then actually to get Dennis Rodman. The Spurs didn't want him, and he didn't really know if he wanted to play anymore actually, and the Bulls had to like totally convince him to like please come play with us. You'd be so good on our team. So in that respect, they did recruit an all-star in the middle of his prime in Dennis Rodman. So please don't ever come back with that argument that Jordan never recruited anybody, because he recruited an all-star in the middle of his prime in Rodman. Okay, moving on from that. Sorry, that's just a little side note. But I want to get to this idea of, well, that championship team or that player didn't need help in winning a title. First off, every NBA team in history who has won a title has had a lot of help on their team. Nobody has ever won a title individually, and if you think that way, I think you're just a very flawed sports fan in how you think about stuff. I think that you can't say Jordan won a playoff series on his own, or LeBron did on his own, or anybody did on their own. Because except for very, very few circumstances in which one player actually did kind of the lion's share of the work, even those are pretty rare, but almost every team in NBA history that's won has had like at least two All-Stars, if not more, on their team. So today I'm going to go through, talk about some of these circumstances, and just kind of break down how you can't say, oh, well, he won on his own, sort of thing. So 2018, your championship team, going just in reverse chronological order. 2018, you had the Warriors, who had four All-Stars between um, Curry, Durant, Thompson, and Draymond Green. 2017, you had the Warriors again with the same four All-Stars: Curry, Durant, Draymond, and Clay. 2016, you had the Cavs with three All-Stars: LeBron, Kyrie, Love. 2015, you had the Warriors with three All-Stars with Draymond, Clay, and Steph. 2014, you had the Spurs. This is a rare scenario where um, I think Duncan was an All-Star this year, but I don't think anyone else was. But they were all playing at decent levels. If I go back and look at this team, let's see some of the stats here. Um, so you had Tony Parker averaging 17 a game, Klay Thompson averaging 13 a game, Manu averaging 12 a game, Tim Duncan averaging 15, Marco Bellinelli averaging 11. So just kind of like a group effort to get that one done, but they only actually had like one All-Star on that team. But again, that's the first one we've come into in the first 5 years we've looked at this. So then 2013, you got the Heat winning, who had the three All-Stars in Bosh, Wade, and LeBron. 2012, the Heat won with Bosh, Wade, and LeBron. 2011. So this is an example of a team where they did maybe have a little bit more of a one guy approach, where you could say he definitely didn't win it on his own, because his role players played phenomenally, much like all the role players on the Spurs in 2014 played phenomenally, and it was not a one man effort. But Dirk definitely sticks out as like the lone star on this team, and he definitely contributed more than any other like superstar had to on any other championship team. But then again, okay, in the first 8 years we've looked at, only two teams have had the one All-Star thing. 2010, you had a Lakers team that won with All-Stars in Kobe and Pau Gasol. You had Sixth Man of the Year Lamar Odom. You had still really quality, still at the tail end of his prime, Ron Artest. You had Andrew Bynum, like in the middle of his prime. Okay, so like you had a team with basically two All-Stars, but like five guys who could really play. 2009, kind of same story. Trevor Ariza in his prime subs in for Ron Artest, but you still got a prime Pau Gasol who's an All-Star. Kobe Bryant playing at MVP levels, and then you have Andrew Bynum, Lamar Odom, still Sixth Man of the Year quality. So again, a team with two All-Stars, but like the probably like the best role players you could have for any team, and still call them role players. Boston the year previous to that in 2008. They've got all-stars in Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Garnett. They've got basically like a borderline all-star in Rajon Rondo. And yes, I mean in 2008 he was a borderline all-star. He was putting up the same numbers as he had in the or as he was going to put up in the seasons following, but people just didn't know him as well at this point, so they didn't consider him for the All-Star game. And then you had great role players in like Sam Cassell, Tony Allen, James Posey, Leon Poe, Kendrick Perkins, Big Baby Davis. A really good bench. Okay, the year before that, 2007, you had Manu, Tim, and Tony Parker all in their primes. So you had basically three All-Stars on that team. 2004 with Detroit, you had Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace, Rip Hamilton, Rasheed Wallace, all All-Star caliber guys. So although those guys are all sort of like lower end All-Stars, it was a team with like four All-Stars, which is pretty impressive. Uh, 2003, this is another legit argument for saying there's only like a one-star team. So this year, oh excuse me, 2000, I skipped 2 years. 2006 with the Heat, you had Dwayne Wade is an all-star in his prime, and then you had Shaq, so a two all-star team, and then you had just some like really good supporting pieces, like on Antoine Walker's like a sixth man, and then like good supporting pieces in Gary Payton, White Chocolate, Jason Williams, and Udonis Haslem, but still two all-stars. Okay, and then I'll just go back a few more years here because I don't want to take up too much time. But I'm actually probably going to go back to like 1990. So sorry that's going so long. 2005, the Spurs won. You again had like three All-Star type players in their prime between Ginobili, Parker, and Duncan. 2003, this is a legit, because I'm skipping over four because I already did that. 2003, this is a legit argument for a one-star team in that Tim Duncan was really the only star player. Ginobili hadn't really come into his prime whatsoever. Neither had Tony Parker. David Robinson was actually way past his prime, just kind of hanging on at like 9 points a game. Steven Jackson was actually surprisingly enough like the second leading scoring option on this team, which most people don't know. But yes, Steven Jackson was. 2002, 2001, and 2000, you had the Lakers teams. In 2002, it was Kobe and Shaq, of course. 2001, same deal. But then the year two, who you could arguably say were like the first and second best player in the league at this point. In the year 2000, they actually had Glenn Rice on the roster, which most people don't know. So like a third All-Star type option. He didn't fit super well with them, but I just want it to be acknowledged that they did have like a third All-Star on the team, or like a third All-Star caliber player that people like to forget about just for the convenience of forgetting about it. But yes, they did have him, and they were a 67-win team with those guys. 1999, you had the Twin Towers and Tim Duncan and David Robinson winning the title, both still in their primes, of course, so they had a pretty good team. Okay, so then you got the Bulls in 96 to 98, who have, of course, MJ and Scottie Pippen, both perennial All-Stars. Dennis Rodman, who wasn't like an All-Star during these years, but he was still like in his prime and had been an All-Star in other years. It's sort of like I'm trying to think like, okay, for an example, Jimmy Butler didn't make the All-Star team this year, but he still was playing at like an All-Star level. It's just like a crowded competition this year, so he didn't get in, but he's still like playing at all-star level. That's like how Dennis Rodman was playing during these seasons. And then of course you had Tony Kukoc, who was a really good option as a sixth man, and he was a sixth man of the year during these seasons. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about that three-peat. Okay, Rockets in '95. You've got Hakeem and Clyde Drexler, who were a good all-star tandem together. And then the Rockets in '94, who did not have Drexler, they had Otis Thorpe. This is our next example of a team that won with just like basically one star and a bunch of really good supporting pieces. But again, it's not like the other pieces played badly. It's like everybody played really well, but there was just happened to be like one All-Star in Hakeem. And then between 91, 92, and 93, you had the Bulls again, who had Scottie Pippen in his prime, Michael Jordan in his prime, perennial All-Stars. You had guys who were All-Stars in B.J. Armstrong and Horace Grant on the team, who were All-Stars in the 93 and 94 season, so one season after the end of the three-peat. But they were playing this exact same way that they were playing in these seasons between 91 and 93. Like, they were always like about 14 points a game for Horace Grant. He was about 14 points and 9 rebounds a game. For BJ Armstrong, he's like 14 points and 6 assists a game. So really, when I look at it that way, yes, were they weaker All Stars? Yes, they were. But were they playing like the exact same caliber that they were during the three-peat years? Yes, they were. So in a sense, that Bulls team had 4 All Stars, which people kind of forget about. But yes, they had B.J. Armstrong at point, Michael Jordan at shooting guard, Scottie Pippen at small forward, and Horace Grant at power forward. All-star caliber players. So that's really the conclusion of me going through these years. But if we go through it, that is exactly 28 years. And in those 28 years that I went through, you've got Houston in 94. That was a team that won with only basically one All-Star caliber player. San Antonio in 2003. Dallas in 2011, and the Spurs in 2014. So you've got 4 seasons of 28, which equates down to 2 out of 14 or 1 out of 7. So in the last roughly 30 years, only about 14% of the time is a team winning with a one All-Star caliber player. So that's obviously a very low percentage, and I think it just points out that like all these teams have help. Nobody wins a title by themselves. Even the guys that won alone, like people remember that Spurs 2014 team as one of like the greatest ball movement, everybody eats type of teams where like anybody can get a good shot off and anybody can score really well. As far as Dallas in 2011, that was just a thing of like every role player playing like the best that they've ever played, like Jason Terry, Tyson Chandler, JJ Barea, Stojakovic, all those guys. Like for where they were in their careers, they were playing like the best that they could have possibly played in that series. Okay, so looking at 2003, another thing where like Tim Duncan was the main star, very similar to 2011 Mavericks, where just like you had Parker, Ginobili, David Robinson, Steve Smith, Steven Jackson. I think Bruce Bowen was on the team at the time. Just a lot of these guys who are role players at the time, playing like to the best of their abilities for where they were in their career. And then same with Houston, just a ton of role players perfectly playing and doing exactly what they needed to do to succeed. That being said, guys, I hope this video, if you didn't agree with me previously, it persuaded you to see how lazy and inaccurate the "oh, he had help" argument is. Whether you're arguing it for any player, Durant, um, LeBron, the Celtics in '08, I think that it's really applicable with any team. Is that like I can't see a team in history really, except for very extreme circumstances where you could argue like he basically had no help and won a championship. Like I think out of all these ones we've talked about, like Tim Duncan in 2003 probably was the best argument for like he really didn't have much help and won a championship. But besides that, I can't really agree with it because even the guys who were like the sole star on the team, their role players were playing like perfectly. Like Jason Terry, you would say was like playing at an all-star level in the 2011 playoff run, but like he wasn't an all-star that year. Or like you could say, well, like Jordan only had one All Star during his 2 three-peats, but like yes, but Horace Grant was playing like an All Star in the first three-peat. B.J. Armstrong was playing at the same level he was at when he became an All Star the next year. Tony Kukoc was the sixth man, which is in a way like saying like, no, you're not an all-star, but like you're definitely a super quality player in the NBA. And then again, like Dennis Rodman was sort of like Jimmy Butler this season, like playing at his same consistent good level, but just because of other competition, he didn't happen to be an all-star in those seasons, but he still was playing super well. That being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you have a good day, and I hope I'll see you next time. Bye.